There's a couple things I want people to realize. One, bad news doesn't get better with time. Just
That's it.
doesn't. And then the second one I would tell one is somebody shows you who they are, believe them.
Yeah.
Right. So you get one chance, right? I give everybody that one chance to make a mistake, and that's it, right? You show me who you are, you're done. What would you do if somebody handed you a check for $1 million? $1 million after taxes. You have $1 million in your hands. What would you do? What we're going to do here, folks, is we're going to go back to the one rental at a time 50K celebration. Mr. Lumberjack and I will take questions that we got during the day one-on-one. We will share them with the audience with no names, and we'll just go back and forth. So the first one I want to ask Lumberjack, this is a problem I have never had. I look forward to having the opportunity someday to go after it. But let's just say, for some reason, maybe it's a lottery, maybe it's a rich uncle, whatever it is, you wake up one morning, somebody hands you a check for $1 million. What do you do? And let's pretend you don't have your real estate portfolio. You're 20 years ago. What do you do? $1 million.
I mean, we're in Vegas, Mike. I put it all on red.
What? Why? Dude, it's free money, right? You're going to double it, double it.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that how it works? You just put it down and you double it. I think that it's funny because it shows that money isn't the first step. Money isn't the first step. Education is.
Mm,
Understanding what to do with that money, right? Because
yeah.
most people spend their entire lives trying to solve the money problem, right? And even with
Yeah.
young investors, everyone tries to try and solve the money problem. Hey, how am I supposed to get the next down payment for my next house? How am I supposed to do my next how am I supposed to do this massive renovation project? I need money.
Hmm.
And so that's usually the toughest thing they're trying to solve for. When the toughest thing to try and solve for is knowledge and understanding of something where you know that your money is much less at risk and that you can
Hmm.
get great return on that capital. And not just average return, like, probably if I had $1 million tomorrow that I inherited, I'd probably put it in the S&P 500
Hmm.
and I would just let it ride there until I learned where I was going to put my money, where I felt the safest it could be with much greater returns than something, like an S&P 500.
Yeah. I've had this question, I don't know, 3 or 4 times over 20 years. It's not a common occurrence, but boy, is it fun to think about.
Yeah.
Um, and every time somebody came to me with this question, it was they were nervous, right? And I guess that makes sense, right? You wake up one day, you have nothing, the next day you got $1 million. It probably sets off some nerves.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. The first thing to do with $1 million is to put it somewhere where you don't look at it, right? Whether it's the
True.
S&P or a money market account or something, right?
Mhm.
Um, the other thing that I got, from the multiple times I've got this question is they always think I got to do something fast. Like I've got to convert this $1 million into something fast. And I'm like, oh my goodness, no, no, it's okay. Even at 9% inflation, $1 million is still something, right? I mean, it's it doesn't need to be put to work in a day, a week, a month, or frankly, a year, right?
Nope.
It's okay. So what I've told all of them is it really doesn't matter if you have $0 or $1 million.
Yeah.
And this is where I got that phrase, nobody cuts the line.
Yep.
And you got to do the work. And okay, what's that mean? Well, you got to find where you want to invest, right? If it's real estate, it's get a buy box. It's all the stuff we talk about. Just because you have $1 million, to your point, you don't cut the line. It's not a money problem. It's a skill. It's a knowledge. It's all of that. So
Right.
don't rush. Don't blow it. Right.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, you could, if you learn about hard money lending and being the bank, maybe that fits your profile better, right? And so it's the money thing is a very unique challenge for many, many, many people. And so but knowledge has to come before you start deploying and creating strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. What was one of the questions you got that maybe we want to riff on a little bit?
Oh my goodness. I got so many. I think one of the, obviously the place that I spend most of my time is property management.
Sure.
And so spent some fantastic time with Coach Carson.
Mm.
It was awesome. Absolute blast had with him. And the question that I think most often gets asked is, okay, how do I kind of bulletproof a house? When I'm doing a rehab, how do I kind of bulletproof it? We Coach and I share the same ideal of, and same with that ADU guy, Derek.
Mm.
We share that same ideal of any project that we're undertaking. We want to do it in a way where we aren't just looking for the cheapest solution, but we're actually looking for the best value, you
Yeah,
know?
that's a difference for sure. Yeah.
If you want to, when it comes to like floors,
Hmm.
so we got questions. I got a lot of questions yesterday about, hey, so I've got a rehab coming up and I'm not really sure what material I should be using for flooring. Should I still use the LVP? And LVP is kind of the simple answer because it kind of goes over whatever you have and it's kind of an easy thing to use. And, everybody, you can order it from anywhere and you can get it
Yep.
from anywhere.
Survives multiple tenants.
Yep. Anybody can get it anywhere.
Yeah.
But if you have the ability, one of the things that, that ADU guy and Coach and we really like is like that sustainability piece.
Mm.
And so we're doing a lot more in, wood floors,
Oh,
three,
really?
yeah, 3 and a quarter inch, red oak, grade 2. I fell
Mm.
more in love with that ADU guy yesterday because we're sitting there doing an interview and he looks down and he goes, Red Oak, grade 2. Yep, 3/4. I was like, you and I are the only two people here that know what that is.
I don't know
But
what that is, and that's okay.
but basically that type of flooring. So I think,
Yeah.
one of the things is that, we always try and give people the way to figure things out.
Mhm.
And the way to figure things out is don't go cheap,
Oh, yeah.
don't buy top of the line, but you need to find value.
Yeah, I think that's
You,
such wise advice. Pretty much life, really. But
yeah,
definitely being in the real estate game, being a landlord, frankly, a flipper as well. You got to look at value. And you're
yeah,
right. Lots of folks, myself included, probably for the first decade, it was price, price, price.
right.
And I don't know how many times you got to be burned by the lowest provider before you realize that it's not about price, stupid. Um, so tell me more about this because I am an LVP guy, but it's only because that's what I've been using, and everything I do is a template. So
Yeah.
tell me why I need to change my template.
Yeah, I think you need to look at changing your template because quite frankly, when we were and it's not our fault. So I will tell you it's not our fault and here's why. When we first started putting in Pergo and the LVPs, right? Before it was luxury vinyl plank, it was Pergo,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
You and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
put Pergo in.
Oh yeah.
And Pergo used to cost about $1 a square foot,
Hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you didn't used to have to put in anything other than what's called onion paper underneath it. You didn't have to put
Okay.
padding or anything. So we were $1 a square foot for product and we were $1.50 a foot for installation. So we were
Okay.
250 a foot, right?
Well, yep. Yep. Yep.
Okay. So now fast forward into 2020 and in the 2020s, and now we're talking about LVP and we're
Hmm.
talking about something that is now more than likely 250 to 350 a foot.
Yep. Yes.
Most of the time now, if you're using those types of quality products, you're 250 to 350 a foot, but now on top of that, you're also pad underneath it.
Yep.
And so if you want any sort of, soundproofing or anything, any quality pad, you're at least 75 cents a square foot, maybe a buck. So
Okay.
now you're 350 to 450.
So a little bit of inflation in
Yep.
flooring. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. All
You're,
right.
you're 350 to 450. And let's just call labor a couple of bucks a foot.
Okay. Let's call it $6 all in. Okay. A
So
foot.
$6 all in a foot. Well,
Okay.
that's a far cry, Michael, from where we were
Uh,
10 years ago, 15 years ago, when that's what our standard we were using.
well, so I think I know where this is going, but I'll give you my natural response first is
Please.
wood's more expensive. I mean, that was always, at least at the time, and I was probably wrong, but and maybe I was looking at the wrong quality, or maybe they have a new product. But I'm sitting here thinking, is it wood more than six? And I'm guessing you're going to tell me it's not, but let's find out.
Not. It's not. That's the beauty now. It's not.
Mm.
So, wood right now, I just bought a pallet of it for I think it was about 3 and a quarter a foot.
Mm. Okay. All right.
3 and a quarter a foot. And
Do you need a
so,
pad for wood?
nope. You
Really?
can. Depends on what the subfloor is. So
Oh, okay.
you can put a pad on it, but largely speaking, a lot of times you don't. A lot of times you
Okay.
don't need it.
Nice.
Um,
Okay.
but now you're 3.25 a foot, and now installation on that might be $2 to $3 a square foot.
Yeah.
But when
Okay.
they install it and then they poly it, which means they basically poly, then they buff it, or they seal it, then they poly it, then they buff it, then they sand, and then they poly it again, and then they
Hmm.
buff that again, and then they poly it again, and then you got triple coat.
Wow. Now, what does that cost?
That's in the install price of about $3 a
Really?
foot. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. So
Yep.
you're saving. So let's call it $4 with wood and $6 with LVP. Is what I think we got to.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Well,
Okay.
so that was that. So the $6 with LVP was with install. So you're probably
Right.
6 or 7 with install
Okay.
for wood. So you're six or
Oh,
seven bucks for install with wood. You're about $6 for install with LVP. So it's
okay.
about a buck a foot difference
So, and right, well, I think you're telling me is wood's more expensive by a buck.
by about a buck.
Okay.
By about a
Why?
buck.
Why do I want to spend an extra $1,000 to have wood versus LVP?
Great question. So LVP is not going to last 100 years like the wood,
No, that's true. Okay. So you,
right?
so,
Like so you and I
so,
have flipped units in the last
oh
10
yeah.
years.
Mhm.
And have we ever redone a unit LVP flooring? Have we ever had to redo a floor? I've certainly had to redo a floor because
Uh,
or replace pieces, and then you run
yeah,
out
for
of
sure.
pieces,
Pieces. Yeah, 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 yeah,
right,
yeah.
pieces, but then you run out of those pieces, and then you have to do a whole room, and then the room doesn't match the
Well,
rest of the
that's
house.
why you use one standard. You
Yeah.
always got pieces.
But we've
Oh
all had
yeah,
that
no, yeah,
vendor,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where we've all had that vendor where they discontinued that. And it's just a
Sure.
slightly different color. And this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
how they make their money, right?
Of
There's
course.
I have not seen any LVP product that for the last decade has had the same exact
Yeah,
pattern available, same
sure.
exact product available, right? So it's a bit of, but then now, and maybe to the untrained eye, they don't recognize it, but I can walk into a room and I go, damn it, that one was done 3 years ago, and that one was done 10 years ago, and that one was done because we ran out of the pieces to replace it.
Yeah, you see it. It stands out like, yeah, where's Waldo? It's just right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it.
And so
Once you see it, you know where it is. Yeah.
exactly. And so the best part now is that instead of ever having to do that, because now let's say, because you're always talking legacy, right? So
Hmm.
these rentals are legacy, and so they get passed on to your amazing family or to your daughter.
Hmm.
What happens there, and then how do they get managed? But that floor might last 10 years, it might last 15, it might last 20. Let's just say it lasts 20.
Okay.
Well, at the end of the day, whatever that inflation is going to be in 20 years, 25 years, you're going to have to replace that floor outright.
No, I agree. I get it. Okay.
And wood, I will not. I will only have to sand it, and
Mm.
you get 7 sandings out of a typical three quarter piece of red oak. You get out of almost all wood flooring, not engineered, but wood flooring,
Okay.
you will typically get 7 sands out of it. And
Okay.
you can usually go 10 years, 12 years in between sands.
And what does the sand cost? Just rough and tough.
It's
So
about a buck a foot.
okay. All right. All
Yep,
right.
about a buck to a buck and a quarter a
I
foot.
will look at I will look at possibly changing my model. Very, very cool. All right.
Yeah.
I like it.
We're doing a lot more wood floor than we used to do a ton of it. Then we started doing a lot more LVP, and now we're
Yeah.
back to doing more wood floor.
All right. I like it. I like it. Well, you just brought up kids. This was on my list, so we'll just insert it here.
Sure.
I was asked plenty of, and it's really weird, right? You're on one side of the kids curve. I'm on the other side of the kids curve. So if we did it in the middle, our kid's 16. So
Yeah. Your daughter's only 2 years younger than my wife.
yeah. Oh, married them young, huh? All right. Very
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I
Very
did.
good. Yeah. So it's kids are wonderful, right? They're
Yes.
everything. And um
Reason one would retire.
yeah, exactly. That's right. Exactly. Yeah, we'll get into that in a following episode. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
when you get it, like when somebody pulls you aside and talks about their kids, whether they're young like yours or teenagers or going off to college or adults like mine, um, you can always see it in their eyes,
Yeah.
and it feels it at least to me feels like I think this is correct. They don't want to make a quote unquote mistake, right? They
Sure.
don't want to miss that opportunity. And um, it's important to talk about, but
Mhm.
it's I think probably the most important thing for me is don't force your kids to
Nope.
do something they don't want to do, right? And I say that as someone who made that mistake, right?
Mhm.
I Teresa was going to college. Um, she was going to go to an art school. I looked up the cost. I looked up what I thought would be her opportunity for income, and let's just say that equation was broken.
Mhm.
So I was like, go to school, get a business degree, or some real degree, right?
Uh-huh.
And get an art get an art minor. That was my selfish, my it was met with love and caring, um, but it was wrong. It was just
Mm.
wrong. She has shown no interest in any of economics or business or freaking money in general. It just doesn't light her on fire. And
Yeah.
it was a complete mistake of mine to try that. And shout out Olivia for I remember one day when I I was like, honey, that $200,000. I mean, what do you do with this? And I didn't know. And Olivia came down and pounded me on my chest, saying, "Our daughter's going to do what she likes. I choose her over you. Get it, right? This is a problem. I'll take care of it, right?" So, um, yeah, it's let them do what they want, and it's really funny because given where the world went, her degree, her art, when she does stuff with visuals and all of that on the computer, it's like, hey, I guess you're right, honey. You're doing quite well for yourself. So, dad was wrong. Dad was wrong again. Dad was wrong then. Dad's wrong now. So it's kind of wild.
I mean, I think we always want to give our kids guidance, right? But
Hmm.
my kids, until they're 18, they will work in my companies
That makes
because
sense.
I want them to understand work ethic. They will be held to a higher standard. I will, and I've told them, I've looked them all in the whites of their eyes, and I've told them, Dad now has a whole lot more time on his hands. Life is going to get a little bit more difficult.
I like it.
Because it's our job to raise productive human.
If the audience doesn't know, how old are your kids?
I have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, a soon to be 3-year-old, and a 16-week-old.
You're still counting weeks. That's young.
I am. It's very young. It means that they still wake you up at night all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
But but yeah, I think that our job as parents is to not be their best friends. It's to be their parents and lead them and guide them and take all the wisdom and experience that we've had over the years. But I think that very often our kids follow what we do and less what we say. And so my kids are out with me doing constantly, whether it's picking up rent or going and fixing a problem or going and grabbing a trash bag. We're not too important to not pick up a trash bag. Like,
Absolutely.
and so I want my kids to have that level of humility that landlording is a service industry. And so we do. And the other thing for me is I don't really have to care what they pick as a college education because I'm paying for it.
Hmm.
So they're going to pay for their college education. I'm going to make sure that they have every chance and every advantage in the world when it comes to preparing them for life and for college or college. But I'm diametrically opposed to paying for college because I want to make sure that at that point, my belief is that my kids will have the things instilled in them, which is hard work and you get out of it what you put into it, and
Hmm.
that you have a responsibility. And
Yeah.
so, so for me, I mean, it's I want my kids to be happy, and so the biggest challenge for me is I know that not all four of my kids are going to be amped up about taking over a real estate business.
Hmm.
They aren't. One or two might, and the other two might not be. But the only opportunity is that we use what we create to create opportunity for them.
Yeah, I like it. What was another question or topic that you want to riff on from the event?
Um, it was one of the things that I got asked was somebody was going through just a massive ordeal with their property manager.
Mm.
And I think for W-2 employees, which most people in that room were this weekend.
For sure.
I think the challenging part is that many of them are not in they're not hiring managers, right? So they
Hmm.
don't know how to hire and they don't know how to fire.
Yeah.
And you and I like Gary just over your right hand shoulder with those
Hmm.
awesome cards. You and I
Yes.
like you and I like Gary V a lot. And Gary says something that I absolutely love, which is hire fast and fire faster. And
Agreed.
I think that too often the optimism, there's two pieces to it. One is there's the optimism that people can fix the situation,
Yeah.
and we know that that doesn't work. It just gets
No,
worse.
it gets worse.
And then the other reason that they paint themselves as trying to be really optimistic is because they're really just afraid. They're really just afraid to fire somebody because they don't want to have
Yeah.
difficult conversations. And if it's one thing I forced myself to do in my early 20s and just get a whole lot better at, was I am really, really good. You want me in that room in a difficult conversation
Mhm.
because it's not about delivering it unkindly. It's not about being mean when you deliver it, but you do have to have difficult conversations and hold people accountable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's our life in sales management, right? We
Oh,
have to hold,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
and
when I get this, when I have this, and I have this conversation all the time because people know I fired the first five. There's a couple things I want people to realize. One, bad news doesn't get better with time. Just
it's like
doesn't.
it's like a water leak.
It's like it doesn't get better, right?
No, you're exactly right.
And then the second one I would tell one is somebody shows you who they are, believe them,
Yeah.
right? So you get one chance, right? I give everybody that one chance to make a mistake, and that's it, right? You show me who you are, you're done. You're just done. I have other stuff in my life. I don't have time to babysit you and send you to counseling or blame it's my fault you didn't understand what I mean it's just come on. No. One time again, like Gary V's wonderful for that, right? Fire faster. And it I remember I fired one of our PMs when I was in freaking Europe, right?
Olivia,
And
baby, down and fix sinks.
yeah, no, I mean it was scrambling. We didn't have a backup plan, right? We had to
Oh,
find someone immediately, get those lead. I mean, it's a whole thing. But I mean,
it's a thing.
what was I going to do? Fire him when I got back and let him steal more money? I mean, really?
Right.
That was my option.
Yeah.
It was bad. It was bad. So yeah, I am curious when you think about that. Do you think the right answer is for full-time employees to maybe do more self-management, or is it just fire faster, find a good PM, they're out there, stop being cheap? I think a lot of people go to the cheapest PM.
Yep.
So what do you think about all that?
I think the model's broken. And I
Mm,
think that's the model that I tried to fix in my course. The
mm,
reason that there's a reason that there's 3 out of the 11 modules have to do with PM.
mm,
There's a reason. And it's because if you have your own systems and your own processes, then you don't need a traditional PM.
mm.
You
Okay.
actually, in large part, crowd service it. And that's where the game changes because I believe in the next, 10 years, 5 to 10 years, I believe largely speaking that traditional PMs are going to be out of business.
Mm,
I
okay.
think I think it's going to be far more informational AI system and process driven, where we start making things more about asset management as opposed to property management
Yeah.
and looking at a more holistic view. So that's where, majority of my course is spent around that piece because some people have to have that PM concept.
Hmm.
It's just the outdated model of how it's being delivered. And
Gotcha.
because it's expensive, that's a heavy
Yeah.
model.
Oh
It's a heavy,
yeah.
expensive.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Oh yeah. Yeah. Six figures a year, I know. Hell yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So there's another topic that I got repeatedly, and is let's just call it debt equity for lack of a better word, right? A lot of
Yeah.
people in that room had a couple of units. A lot of them took our advice and bought in 2020. A lot of them have seen 20, 30, 40, 50% appreciation, hence a lot of equity. But they're also operating in an environment with, let's call it 8% rates and high prices.
Yeah.
So, some of them are looking at it like the only money I have is the equity. What should I do? Should I tap into it? Should I sell? When you hear people talk, and again, sometimes it almost feels like they're trying to rush back to how we opened, right? Somebody gave you $1 million. You can think about the Fed giving you 250 grand. It's kind of
Yeah.
the same idea. Um, but the difference is they have some experience, right? They own some assets, right? In the first example, it's just money. Here we have assets, experience. You bet and won. What's some advice for somebody sitting on debt equity?
I thought that the answer, so we got asked that when you and I were on stage together.
Mhm.
And I thought that both of our answers were right, but yours was better.
Hmm.
The reason I think your answer was better is my solution is fixing the problem. Your solution is showing them that you don't really actually have a problem. So yours was a better answer
Oh, thank
because
you.
when people look at that and they say, "Hey, I'm looking at this fact that I have a bunch of dead money sitting there in this asset and I can't get it out." And
Yeah. So,
and and and
yeah.
so and I get the idea behind it, which is, hey, I want to continue to propel my growth and leverage assets, and absolutely that's the right path. But the question is that there are sometimes it's the right answer to just say, hey, it's good, I've got a 40% equity in the asset,
Yeah.
right? Because the
Yeah.
last thing you want to do is create an alligator by pulling that money out some way,
Somebody we
right?
know did that. That was very
Yeah.
bad. Very bad. Very
And
bad.
very,
Yes.
very bad. And then now all you've done is start to you created the opportunity for you to decline and actually, quite frankly, get taken out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
You
know,
you go the wrong direction, you ladder up and if you get really stupid, you replace the 3% with a 7% mortgage, you do a cash out. Woo! Yeah, that could be the death blow,
it could be
right? Yeah.
it's and it well, Mike, let's face it, it certainly puts you on the path.
Yeah. You've
It
started the ignition. That's right.
you exactly you have started that vehicle. And so if that's something that somebody's really frustrated in and really, really concerned about, and you have other assets that you see much more opportunity in your market, then 1031 and get
Yeah,
access to it
exactly.
that way. But don't put bad debt on an asset or over lever an asset that literally starts the ignition to the point where you could be putting yourself out of business.
Yeah, I mean, kind of put some numbers around this. You're absolutely right. I think a lot of folks get the whole cash on cash, right? Return on equity, return on
Sure.
capital, right? Rock for you, cash
Yeah.
on cash for me, same idea.
Yeah.
But a lot of people then roll over to return on equity. And I'm
Right.
like, why the hell are you doing that? Who cares? You already own it. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
yeah,
they're probably they're all due respect to them, they're probably newer and are kind of getting pumped up about a net worth number, right?
yeah, probably.
In the very beginning, I think we all kind of look at net worth because we're coming from nothing.
Hmm. Oh
And
yeah. Oh
right.
yeah.
And so we all kind of look at net worth in the beginning, but that's kind of one of the things where you get to the next stage. And the next stage is you literally go, net worth, who cares? It's a paper number.
Yes, it's
Doesn't
it's
matter.
fake.
It more pisses me off that I have to
Yeah.
spend a bunch of time filling out a bunch of paperwork for a
Mm,
couple of different banks to
yeah.
justify my existence. It's more painful for me to have a net worth,
Hmm.
from
Hmm.
that perspective. So yeah, I think the debt on equity, I thought that was a great question asked yesterday at the conference. And I think like I said, I think both of our answers were right, but yours was better,
There you go.
because I think that people are finding a problem where there isn't one.
There you go. We'll go one more time each.
Sure.
What's the last one you want to go through, you think?
I would say probably still um people wanting to measure for a seventh time
Mm,
and they still haven't cut once.
yeah.
I think it was not so much a specific question as much as it was looking at people that have put in the time, they've done the work, they've, invested their time, invested themselves, and they still haven't written an offer, or they
Yeah.
still don't know the asset in their market, or they still are trying the same thing. I think that your lesson was great when you told the story yesterday, talking about, basically going, yeah, for a year we spent time trying to buy in the Bay Area and it didn't make sense and you should have pulled that cord faster.
Mm.
I think I think now there's so much more opportunity with zoning laws opening up, and 80 that ADU guy and I spent time talking about the dumbest, most boring. It's going to be the worst interview ever in history. And it's because we talk about zoning. Zoning is
Wow.
unbelievably painfully boring. It's painfully boring, but you know what? I know the lots in my town that might have older homes on them. I know the ones that are going to be the most valuable.
Mm.
And so when we're trying to look and create value, we need to not be looking at just the standard MLS 3-1 ranch that was gone up for sale, and this is what I can get for rent. What if we started looking with a different strategy in the same asset?
Hmm.
And so when we covered zoning yesterday, it was we've looked and bought properties. We were actually proud of the fact, both that ADU guy and I, we were proud of the fact that on a couple of deals we overpaid. And we
Mm.
overpaid because there was the opportunity to add multiple dwelling units. There was the opportunity to knock the building down and do a 20-unit building. I bought a piece of land. I bought a property that was a duplex.
Okay.
And come to find out, it was actually one of the very rare lots in my city that will actually allow for a 20-unit building.
Ooh. So 20 is more than two, right?
It is true. Yep, it is. And do developers, Michael, do they want to develop
Yeah.
20
No, you're
units
right.
or two?
Next. No, you're right. Yep.
So the agent, shame on her, didn't know any of this
Mm.
and marketed it as a duplex with no upside.
Right.
I
Didn't
paid
flag it, didn't highlight it. Yep.
nothing. I paid $250,000 for that thing a few years ago.
Okay.
And that land with an approved 20 unit is worth probably close to $1 million. And it's
Just the
going to
land.
just the land, just the land with approvals, which will take about
Correct.
$100,000 to get,
Mm.
6 months and 100 grand.
Mm.
But 6 months and 100 grand on top of my 250 makes
Yeah.
350. And last time I checked, that's less than a million, which I could sell it for.
Yeah, a little bit less, a little bit less.
But,
So it's going to be really interesting, right? You talk about you and Derek being boring. I can't imagine. You guys geek out, which people love.
oh,
But
such dorks,
yeah, such dorks. But both of you kick my ass, so I got to be kind. But anyways,
yeah.
so zoning is an unlock to money,
It
and
is.
I have a sneaky suspicion that will be an interview that will get a lot of rewatches because
Yeah.
you two geek out at a level that I'm not even sure is English. It's like Latin or Greek sometimes. It's freaking wild. It's wild as a guy that doesn't understand half this stuff. It's wild to watch you two communicate. It's like I don't know. It's like Latin. It's crazy. And then another thing, I just had an idea.
Yeah.
So you know that we do these gold cards for first deals and black cards for next deals, right? You're a part of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
I have some.
wonder. Yes, you do. I wonder. And folks, if you're still watching this, let us know in comments below. Should we create a card for first offer? Because
Ooh,
that's the celebration for a lot of
yeah.
people that are like
Yeah.
stuck in the whole, I need more data. You don't
Yeah.
find a
Yeah.
property listed at 200. You know it works at 162. Write it at 161. Who
Mike, I
cares?
love that idea. I love that idea. I'd love for you to spend more money on people. I love that idea.
Dude, you and Dion are always spending my money. What the hell?
I'd make a great wife.
Ay, ay, ay. All right, audience, let me know in the comments below. If I get,
It's
I
got
was
to be
gonna
at
say,
least a couple hundred comments, Mike.
yeah, we've got a couple hundred comments saying create the first offer. And again, that I really want to stress that example, right? I think you're right. I think there's a lot of people doing the work, the buy box, the discipline to getting the return. They see a property listed at 200, then they do the back of that envelope math and it works at 162. they don't write the offer because the agent said this or someone said that. No, write the offer. That's that. I promise you, you write the offer at 162. You're nervous as all hell, right? It's all this, it's all that. You send it off. I bet for most people, like doing the DocuSign or whatever it's going to be done, and they send it back, it's going to be an unlock. Like, oh, I didn't die. I didn't die.
But Mike, it's so funny, right? We've been doing this for over 20 years. And we still remember like it was yesterday what it was
Oh
like
yeah.
signing that first offer because
Norris Drive. Oh yeah. I remember.
it is nerve-wracking.
Dude,
It
I came
is
off losing $160,000. You know how nervous I was to lose more money? Freaking A, man. Uh,
you're like, I've got now a bad track record. I got to reverse the trend.
this can't miss. This can't. I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I
I
get
think,
it.
like I said, I think celebrating that first offer because so often, right? It's like it's just that next step, right? The
Mhm,
first step, doing the work, right?
mhm.
And then the next step is penciling a deal. And then the next step is making the offer. And then the
Yeah.
next step is okay, you get your offer accepted and oh
You're in
shit, I'm
escrow.
now
Yeah,
what?
you're in escrow. You got to get inspections and
Exactly. Yeah. Inspections. And then you're finally at that closing table. And then Simon's story, uneducated economist. He
nervous the
gets
whole time. Yeah.
nervous out of his mind and he goes and he gets the check for his deposit and he has $300 left in his account.
Yeah.
Three after he writes his deposit check for his house, he has $300 left.
And let's forget, you and I both know this, and Simon has shared this publicly, so I'm not sharing any dirty laundry. He lost a house in the
He
Great
did.
Recession. So
He did.
he had that memory of that stress. He had accumulated some cash. He then goes to the bank, removes 99 point something percent of it, leaving himself with under $500 and buys another house. You know how nervous he had to be?
Oh
I
my
mean, just
word. Like
think about that.
that dude's a warrior. Like
Oh
I can
yeah.
like I mean that's a warrior mentality right there. Like you picked yourself up from the ashes and
Mhm.
against everything, against literally the inside of you screaming out that you don't want to do it, that you don't want to go through that pain again, that you don't want to go through that feeling again, that you don't want to go through the depression that must have that puts people in. To rise from that and to live again and to do it again and to recover from it, like that's balls, man. That's just
Yeah.
that's
Shout
just
out
balls.
Simon. Yeah.
Yeah, good
Shout
for
out
him.
Simon. So let's finish on this one. We have to get to this. Obviously, the market today is perceived as tough. I did like the fact that Lance Lambert, Resi Club, did
Yeah,
once again mention that 1981. Everybody wants to say this is the most unaffordable, and it's frankly not even close.
not
Right?
even close.
It's not even close. It's bad. It might be the worst of the last 15 or 20 years, but it's not the worst in the last 50 years. Let's get that out. Oh, that's neither here nor there. What is interesting is today we have, let's call it 8% rates, 7.5%, 8% investor loans. We have house prices. We have no supply. I mean, if you watch Lance Lambert's, 20 charts or 50 charts, whatever he had there, is like,
What?
wow, single family homes. They're not building any. There's not any for sale. Yeah, there's a couple of markets that have some pain, like Austin, maybe some places in Florida are going to have some pain, but I'm not seeing a crash in any of those statistics. So what's kind of the advice for getting started today? Because it's not easy, but it's
House hack. House hack. House hack. You want to get in, you want to get into the American dream? Don't dictate to the system how you're going to get in. You know? Mike, did you and I tell the software world how we were going to break in and how we were going to start in the VP at the corner office? With an assistant. Like, did we tell the like, hey, these are the only terms I'm taking in order to start this. That's it. No. We looked at it and we're like, listen, just give us a chance. We'll put our heads down. We'll work our asses off for you. That's it.
I mean, I mean, you and I both know this, but we're given a comp plan that's
Yep.
essentially the rules of the road, right?
Yep.
In our world, we have this thing called OTE, on target earnings. Let's just,
Yep.
for easy math, call it 200. Let's just say we're on a 50-50 plan to keep the math easy. What that really means for folks out there is we were paid 100 grand and our effort was the other 100. But here's the deal. That extra 100 came with a bogey. Let's call it 3 million bucks. And oh, by the way, for most organizations, that bogey slopes. So the first $1 million you make almost nothing. The second $1 million you make a little bit. And the third $1 million, you're finally at your OTE of 200. But where it really gets fun is when you go over the bogey and you get what's
The
called
accelerators.
accelerators, right?
Mhm.
Accelerator money, right? That's where you 2x, 3x the multiple. Why am I telling you all this? Nobody ever told me, for frankly, as a first line and second line leader, I never told anybody else how to do it either. Nobody ever said how to go get that 3 million or go get above. They said it is 3 million. And yes, you want to bitch and whine and complain about territory and number and yada yada yada. It doesn't go anywhere. The number's 3. If you don't like it, leave.
Yep.
Right. And where I'm going with this is figure it out. House hack, right? In the world, house hack. And again, the other thing I think that's really interesting is even in today's market, there are some houses sitting. I mean, Beth talks about this. Even in her high expensive market, there are some agents still taking pictures with their iPhone
Yeah.
in $1 million city.
I
We're
was
not
just gonna
talking,
say, yeah.
yeah, we're not talking 20K houses here, right? A million, 1,000,001. You're taking it with your iPhone, really? Come on, you're better, but be better than that, folks. Your
Mike,
clients should fire you.
if you found an agent taking a picture in $1 million property with their iPhone, I would fire them
Oh,
at that
immediately.
second.
For cause.
Yeah, I would be
For
like,
cause.
you're staring down the barrel of a $30,000 to $60,000 commission, and you're not gonna just go and make a couple of phone calls and get a photographer here for $1,000. Like, that's a problem.
That's a
That's a
problem.
problem. You got too spoiled. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think so. Again, I think that people need to recognize what's more important to you, getting the single family house, exactly the one that you want, or is it getting on the property ladder? I
Yeah.
would argue getting on the property ladder is far more important than getting the exact single family house that you want.
Yeah. And again, this is why I wrote this book up here, right? 15 Conversations with Real Estate Millionaires, because there's lots of different ways to get started. House hacking, 203K loans, live in flips, right? There's lots of ways to do it. Don't the cards are dealt. Play with the hand. And again, I want to highlight this again. It's never easy. Has it ever been easy? I mean,
No.
there's always something. Like sometimes houses are cheap, but then there's no freaking loans, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's never easy.
Yeah, it's true. It's just, again, the Fed gave us a gift.
They did. Yeah,
Five
if you,
percent down,
yeah.
owner OC, 3 and 4 unit buildings.
Oh, that was so
Like,
awesome. Yeah.
oh my word, Mike.
Got rid of the feasibility or whatever that was called. Feasibility.
Yeah, now you don't get 75%. They didn't yeah, the feasibility or
Sustainability. Thank you.
sustainability, they got rid of that. So it's not 75% of your debt, it's not 75% of your rent payments, it's 100% of what you get paid for rent.
Yeah.
I mean, dear heavens, if you are not taking this opportunity in the greatest financial instrument I have ever seen,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Get on that property ladder with something like this. It just, change your
Yeah.
life.
Well, let's switch gears. I wasn't planning to do this, but I'm just loving this conversation. Let's go to the event and just overall impression. Let's first start with the venue, right? The Blind
Oh,
Center. Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, so the Blind Center, like if people go watch my introduction video of the Blind Center, we did a whole walkthrough and we didn't even hit like half the building for the event, right? We got the whole venue for the week. But what I want to highlight for the team is I told Melinda, shout out Melinda, who is my point of contact to make all that happen, that my color for my brand is purple. And they had a long list of like tablecloths and these other things. None of them were purple. So I said, hey, it's okay. White, black, doesn't matter, right? I'm not asking you to go spend money. Lo and behold, we get to the event, and what did they have? They had
Purple, purple.
tablecloth, purple, and they had lights. Like it's funny. Somebody came up to me and goes, "Hey, I suspect those tablecloths are the venues, but tell me you brought the lights." I'm like, "Nope, I didn't bring the lights."
Unbelievable, Michael.
Unbelievable setup, right?
Mike,
Um,
I made fun of you. I made fun of you
Yes.
when you said to me, because we talked about venue and we talked about hotels, and I said, yeah, it doesn't have to be on strip, can be off strip, but at least like leverage one of the big hotels that's there. There's a lot of stuff to do, blah, 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 blah. And you were like, yep, yep. I'm still searching. I'm still searching because I want us to be able to do this at a reasonable price where people can afford the tickets, and
Mhm.
always focused on the customer, always focused on, the community. And then you were like, yeah, so I rented out the blind center. I was like, what?
How are you doing?
What, Mike? What?
I'm disappointed in you.
Come
Ah,
on.
being cheap.
Yeah, and I was just like, damn it, Mike. I was like, you're being cheap, man. You're being cheap. And then I show up and I see the place, and we're driving up to it the first time, and I said to Mike, I said, God damn. I was like, look at this thing. This thing is beautiful. I mean, what a beautiful building. And from a guy who loves construction, like, I'd be the first one to tell you the place was a dump, and it was awesome. It was beautiful. And then you go inside, and the aesthetics, the flow, the feel, the spaces that could be leveraged, like for personal interviews that we did a bunch of with people. Mike, unbelievable venue.
Yeah.
Unbelievable venue.
Yeah. The venue was important to me because it wasn't cheap, but
No.
it allowed me to scratch two itches, right? And obviously it's cheaper than a casino. Let's be very clear, right? It's
Yeah, it was.
on strip casino is 100 grand to start.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to do that. It was cheaper
No.
than that, but not cheap. But it also allowed me to give money to it's essentially a donation, right?
Yep.
Monday through Friday, they're servicing the vision impaired, and then on the weekends to recoup costs, they rent them, right? So we were able to get it. I chose to rent it for the weekend, so we're not smashing around with other guests or whatever. And I felt like I felt at a minimum I could scratch the itch of finding another way to get back. So, and then the event is just crushed. It's crazy. I
Oh,
mean, my gosh. So the venue, I highly recommend that. I told Melinda I'll be a reference anytime she wants. Let me know. So let's actually go to the video. So first off, we had to stream. Near as I can tell, there were a couple of challenges getting in, but people seemed to do it. But it was important for me to record it,
yeah.
right? So we I don't know if people know this. The We hired how many? I think it was 4 or 5. I think it was 5 guys that we hired, and they did the recording of the Zoom. They obviously hosted the podcast room, which we'll get to in a minute. And there was another guy just doing, I guess they call it B-roll or something, running around.
Yep. Yep. Sure.
And I guess I'll say this: it was more expensive than the building. People want to get a scale for how expensive 5 bodies are for
Oh, I
20
can
hours
imagine. I can.
and all the equipment. But it was important for me. So getting the Zoom going, essentially because we didn't actually get up to 100, it was essentially break even, which
Okay.
is fine. That was break even. But that podcast room, which I didn't talk about with anyone, that cost me almost 20 grand. Just that room.
Oh,
Just the room.
see, I was wondering what that cost because, Mike, when I walked in there, Mike, that was a professional studio.
Oh, it was. No, 20 grand. I think it's Heartfelt Productions. Full on. Sean Cannell uses them. Ryan Pineda uses them. They're the number one spot in Vegas.
They
That room was 20 grand. Now, 2 days, they ended up doing 21 recordings, which was
it
awesome.
was awesome.
Yeah.
It was
It,
awesome.
yeah. But what was important to me is, and the other thing that people don't realize, I spent 20 grand and I am not in a single interview. I wasn't a single host. That was not my focus. My focus was the event. But what
Yeah.
I wanted to do, reason I spent 20 grand, and let's be clear, I called Sean Cannell and I'm like, dude, 20 fucking grand? The fuck do I want to spend this money? Right? Sorry, I'm cussing, but I used that language. I was like, you're why the hell would I want to do that?
Yeah.
And we basically had a heart to heart. He's like, we do everything on Zoom. Millionaires, they love you, blah, blah, blah. But think about them getting together and being seated and just, I know you're going to have a vision. You're going to have to bet on, you're going to have to reach with me a little bit. But he's like, I think you should do it. I really think you should do it. Yeah, I know 20 grand's a lot, but they're going to take care of you. They're the best of the best, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, all right, Sean, this is a leap of faith because I see no revenue from all of that, but I do like giving back. I want to thank people that have been with me for years. So let's do that. And oh, by the way, again, I'm not getting any revenue from the 21. Where are the 21 videos going to go? They're going to be bonus content for the recording. So everybody who bought a ticket gets a recording and will get the 21 videos. I'm not charging anything separate for it. I'll just throw it in when they're done. And then it will be content and clips for the YouTube channel. Uh, they will not produce $20,000 in AdSense revenue.
No way. No
No,
way.
no way.
No way. No
Uh,
way.
but yeah, I'm glad I did it. It was a leap of faith. It hurt to write that check. And that was just that portion. And then the Zoom was, break even at, 8,500 or whatever I ended up getting. So that was about break even. So yeah, it was, I'm glad I did it. I I wasn't sure, but when I went like when I went in the room and I went to the glass office that was in, I was like, all right, at least I could see 20 grand in there.
Mike, it was unbelievable, like production value and just having the opportunity to have a bunch of different conversations with a bunch of us, the your millionaires that don't meet together often.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
getting to spend time with Coach was awesome. Getting to spend time with Sean was awesome.
Yeah. I'm glad that
Um,
happened. Yeah.
yeah, it was just Mike, first class event, like all the way around. Like
Yeah.
just uh, it was I have done a lot of events, and that was probably the most fun I ever had.
And then the last thing I want to talk about about the 2 days is, this putting on events. It's all about the audience. The
It
audience
is.
makes the event.
Sure.
A couple of big names can maybe sell tickets or whatever, but the vibe, the energy is the people with butts and seats. And typically, this is how it goes. You come out, you get a banger first presentation, which we had with Jason and Jennifer, lights the world on fire. You can usually follow that energy till lunch,
Yep.
and then it all falls apart. It's like you can map. I can sing you the song, right?
Mhm.
It all falls apart, and then the next morning, it doesn't get much better, right? And then by the afternoon of the second day, half the room is gone because they out at a casino or hung over or whatever they are. And that didn't happen. And then the last thing I'll say about the audience is they got they got out of their comfort zone. They talk to each other. They
Yeah.
talk to each other.
Yeah.
To your wife or your husband or your boyfriend or your girlfriend. They talk to each other. I was upstairs looking down, going, just admiring people, having, group conversations. It was pretty cool.
Um, Jason and Jen were awesome. It's Jen, right?
Yeah.
Jason.
Jen.
Yeah. Jason and Jen were I know Jason because he's on all the time. So
Mhm.
Jason and Jen were awesome. I'm putting it out there now. I've already told Ashley, get ready. We're doing a slide prezzo next year. I want us to help Mike out, and I want us to tell our story because you were a big crybaby about stuff, and people need to hear that
No, absolutely.
because it's
Absolutely.
gonna give them courage.
Yeah, I will tell you this right now, because again, I think it's out there that we're going to do the event President's Day weekend. If you can get Ashley signed up, you will go first. Opening day, opening slot, most important, Saturday morning, you can have it. If you can get Ashley.
I will clip this video and I will be sending it to her every day because we
The
are
new Pink
there.
Panther.
Yeah, exactly. We are there. We are doing it. We need to encourage other people to bound. I mean, Mike, that event, I go to so many and it
Yeah.
was just awesome. It was awesome. People having conversations with each other. Every single one of your millionaires, and this is top down, Mike, right? We
Hmm.
know that in organizations, it's the CEO leads, and then people follow that lead. You give your time, you give your energy, you give your resources, you invested more in the community. I saw every single one of your millionaires, every single one of them sitting at lunch tables having conversations with people. I saw them sitting at dinner tables having conversations with people. And we weren't taking the safe route. We weren't talking to the same two people that really liked what we had to say. We were
Hmm.
sitting at tables, different tables, every single lunch, every single dinner, having different conversations. Honest to God, it was the most fun. I talked to, there might have been 300 people there. I think I talked to 240 of them. I
Yeah,
mean, it
pretty
was, and
awesome.
but you fostered that experience there. And honestly, I mean, I've been to shows that were a whole lot more expensive that got a whole lot less, whole lot less. So you
Yeah.
just, it was, you hit it absolutely out of the park. And it was, and seeing Olivia, God, I mean, for me, that was one of my top five of the show, was finally
Oh,
meeting, was finally
she's real.
meeting.
She does exist.
I knew she existed. And she's like, you need to go over there and smack Mike on the butt like you guys do. Like you guys have this love affair. And
I
I was
just,
like, you not love the guy. I mean, come on.
I love it. There you go. There
So
you go. And
it
the
was
the
so
other thing, yeah, the other thing we got right is, I mean, if you really step back from where I zoomed out playing with the agenda, it wasn't really, I mean, there was a lot of real estate content, but 50% of the event was not real estate, right? Sean Connell building a brand, all of that. We
yeah,
had that uneducated economist.
yeah.
We had Dan Bird on stocks. We had Coach Carson and Bo. I mean, there's Lance Lambert. Just, I mean, it was all really, it's like, do what you're going to do, be very good at the thing that I loved about the speakers.
Yeah.
And I will take credit for this because this has been a focus of mine for years, is curating a list of folks that are very, very good at what they do
Yeah.
and are go-givers, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that you always have this balance, right? Because you get people from other things, they have other agendas, they want to sell their thing, their widget, all of that. And none of that really came out,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I feel really good I feel even better about all of my millionaires. Because they were in front of 300 living human beings and they could have gone a different direction and none of them did. So that was pretty cool.
I
And
thought
yeah, but
the production committee, what was it?
heartfelt production. Yeah.
Heartfelt Productions. That crew in there, unbelievably professional, giving us tips and pointers and telling us what they needed and here, here's what we can get the best result. And that was awesome. And somebody had made the comment and they just said, it's just unbelievable. You guys are out there talking to anybody.
Mm,
And yeah, I said, so that's a Mike thing, that's a Zoob thing. He's
mm.
like, what do you mean? And I said, that's a Zoob thing. I said, here's what it is. If he realizes that you're in this for you, you're out.
Out.
I said, you're out because it's about the community. And when we've
Mhm.
made it about the community, there's no guessing why the guy went from 0 to 50,000 subs. He made it about
Yeah.
the community.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Um, the other thing that we did that was again a total ad hoc moment is we raised the audience kicked in $1,000. This is a thank you to the Blind Center. We did that at lunchtime on the second day because everybody was raving about that. I'm like, all right, well let's see if the audience really will put their money where their mouth is. And we sold 42 pieces of swag, uh,
Awesome.
40 of them for $20 and two of them for $100. And it's like 5 minutes. It's like that was pretty. I didn't know. I told Mike, I don't know how long you're going to stand here, but I'll help you sell this out. I didn't need to say anything. It's like Don, we're a part of this. So that was cool to watch the audience do that.
Funny story about that. I realized that I had never signed my name, Matt the Lumberjack Landlord.
Really, it's
It
funny,
it looked like my 6-year-old son wrote it.
right? Because it is who you are, but you don't sign. That makes sense.
No, I don't sign that. I don't sign that. Some
Yeah.
like write my name, and I'm like, uh,
How
uh.
do you spell lumberjack?
I had to start and stop multiple times and writing my own name. I'm like, this is a problem. This is a problem. And then I realized and I was like looking and I go, well, that's not good. I was
Okay,
like, that's
can I
not
have a
that's
do-over?
yeah, I was like, that's not good at all. I was like, damn it, I should have practiced that first before I started writing it. So I wrote it and it looked like a 6-year-old wrote it. And it's because I
Uh,
never write lumberjack in cursive. I never do. So it looks horrible. So I apologize in advance to whoever
well, they
got
had
that.
two people have very unique items. They have the
Yeah.
first signatures of Matt
First
the
and
Lumberjack,
second. It's
first and
true.
second. So that makes them even worth more. They're worth more now. So that's funny. That's
Yeah.
funny. And I guess the
Yeah.
last thing I'll talk about, I don't know if it's in the room with you, but all speakers got a very unique thank you gift at the end of their presentation.
We
Uh,
did.
what did you think of that craziness?
So I love it. I literally have I'm deeming myself now the people's champion
Oh,
because
I like it because
because
you have a championship belt. That makes sense.
got a championship belt. And so if you don't know what we're talking about, check out my Instagram, Lumberjack Landlord, because I saw what he was giving out and I was like, I started laughing out loud, Mike. I was like, what a freaking baller. What a baller. He gets his title belts. What a baller. I was like, this is what a freaking cool idea. And so I was just like, in all honesty, Mike, like that first day when I saw them, I was like, so he better got me a belt. I was like, I hope I got a belt because I'm not doing a single presentation. We're doing the four Avengers, and
Oh yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, at least Mike, do you think you got me a belt? You know, so so when I got the belt, the only thing that came to my mind was The Rock and the People's Champion. And that's why I grabbed that chair and I then jumped up on the chair and I gave my belt back to the people. So
Oh, that's awesome.
it was awesome. It was awesome. Like I said, it was, Ashley was just like, so tell me how you really felt. Because I called her and told her, this morning, she was just like, babe, that's great. I'm so glad you had so much fun. She's like, our flight comes in at 8 tonight. I'm like, okay.
You're like, did she tell you, honey, you can't wear that in bed?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. So funny story about the belt. Obviously, I always knew I wanted to create. If I wanted to do something for all the speakers, right? I didn't pay
Yeah.
the speakers. They came out on their own. They got their own flights. They got their own. I didn't. I didn't. I invited them. They said yes or no. They all said yes, clearly. Um, but I wanted to do something. So,
Awesome.
uh, and I wanted it to be because the first thing that comes to mind, plaque, or trophy. Kind of been there, done that.
Uh-huh.
Second thing
I
that
know
obviously comes to, yeah,
you and I have boxes of those in our attic.
dude, I didn't even take after the first couple of conferences, I left them at the hotel. I'm like, the maid's got a couple of trophies. I mean, who cares? I mean, yeah, it's really weird, really weird. But so I wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
I did have a moment where I thought I would do a donation in your name somewhere, but I'm like, they want to do that, they would do that themselves. These guys are all millionaires.
it's true.
And then I was like, go ahead. And then I was like, I want to do something. Yeah, there you go. I wanted to do something that no one does. Yeah. Got your name,
Oh,
you
it's
know,
awesome.
yeah, your picture, right? The one you sent over. Yeah,
It's awesome.
and it's real. So
It's
sorry,
legit.
it's legit, right? So I don't know if people realize about the last time I was in Vegas, there was one of those on my shelf where the cash flow game is now. So
Yeah.
of course I do what I always do. I buy one and I put my picture on it to see the quality. I envisioned it being just a plastic piece of, you know, you know, junk, which I would not have bought it for. But when I picked up the box, I'm like, holy shit, this is like 15 pounds. I mean,
Yes.
first cut, I'm like, this feeling good. And then you get it out. The gold's great. There's the backing, like where all the snaps are, is great, thick leather. And
Dude,
then the
it is
picture came out
legit.
cool. Yeah, look at
It's
that.
legit, dude. This
Yeah.
thing is legit. I'm wearing it to breakfast this morning.
Yeah,
Like,
and then again, it allowed me also to put on my because there's the front panel which you showed, and then left and right, I put on words that were important to me. I think it's do the work, and Go Giver, if I remember correctly.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, right. So everybody
Yeah.
got the same thing. So everybody got their picture, their name, and then something, some words of encouragement that were important to me. So it's pretty cool.
Dude, it's awesome. It's so, I mean, I went to a real estate event and I got named the people's champion. Like, I
There
mean,
you go.
I
There you
mean,
go.
honestly, like
Yeah.
it's awesome. It absolutely awesome idea. Like I said, it was an absolute blast. I've already started working on mine and Ashley's presentation for next year to open things up. Jason and Jen, true inspirations.
At the bar.
Absolutely
Yeah.
gonna be hard, absolutely gonna be hard to measure up to, but we'll give it our best shot. But man, Michael, just
Yeah.
honestly, like and the best part is that after that, it shows how much community you created, right? So it wasn't just that it was community there on site. Afterwards, we're all going out with people from the event, and it's not just all the hosts, or it's not just all the YouTubers going out together. It wasn't that. We had a Denny's meetup,
Hmm.
30 of us, 30
Wow.
people at Denny's, and that was done twice. And then there was Applebee's, and then there was a couple of other, the Lazy Dog.
Mm.
So every single night I had dinner with a bunch of the investors that were there at the conference. They were, a couple of them weren't even subscribers, but it was just
Nice.
awesome to be able to hang out with the community, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
community. So it and it was just awesome. It was and I literally told Mike, because Millennial Mike, we had a kind of a YouTuber house where we all kind of stayed together. When we would get home from dinner at 9, 10 o'clock at night, we would stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning talking more about the event, about, hey, things we can do tomorrow, and other people that we want to talk to, and make sure that we get them, encourage them to do their channel. And hey, here's how you do an interview, and here's how easy it is. And man, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
unbelievable.
so the one question I got the most, shout out Chester for starting it, and many others follow Chester, was we're gonna do it again. We're gonna do it again, right? And
Mhm.
I don't know if you know this, we never talked about this, but heading into the event Friday, I was less than 50-50 that I would do another one, right? I committed to this one. We were gonna do the best we could on this one. Uh, it was a lot, not only financially, but time wise. A little bit of stress, not horrible stress, but when you don't have any stress, any little stress is more than before, right? It's just, it is what it, on a percentage basis, the stress level was crazy. But anyways, I wasn't sure, man, but I'm serious.
Yeah.
That Saturday night was my first restless night in probably a decade.
Really?
And oh yeah,
Saturday night,
yeah,
not
Saturday night, because I was vibrating with so much excitement.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it wasn't nervous. It's like I felt like I was above my bed. I was vibrating so much.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
sleep. I can turn my mind off and go to sleep in 5 minutes. As long as I'm laying down, 5 minutes. It was like 1 a.m. or some crazy shit. I saw the clock the last time. Nothing. I couldn't sleep.
Mike, since Friday night, or since Thursday night when I got here, since Thursday night, I've slept 10 hours.
You got to take a nap today before the family comes in.
I'm so taking a nap today. I'm pulling a Dion. I'm taking an
Yeah.
extended sesh too. Extended Pink Panther.
Oh, I love it.
But Mike, but it was because we go to dinner, and then we're having all these great conversations and getting to know each other and talking about everything and anything, life, and then it's 10 o'clock at night, and then you're back at the house with these other folks, and getting to hang out with all nighter hider, and hanging out with uneducated economists. And they came over and we hung out, we talked strategy, and we talked markets, and we talked all these things. Mike, I literally, it was like people had to be falling asleep in place, because it was so much fun, and there was such a dynamic there where it was electric. It was just, I can't explain it. It was like literally like a rock concert that lasted 2.5 days.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, the good news is we are going to do it again. I did make that commitment. I do not commit to a third one. I will do these one at a time. But
Smart.
yeah. So we're gonna do it again in Vegas, same spot, Blind Center, same weekend, President's Day weekend. So people can hopefully travel out Monday with not having to worry about, missing a day of work. And yeah, there's definitely a few things we'll be tweaking. But it exceeded my expectations on all fronts every time. No complaints. We'll just there's definitely some things I could tweak, but yeah, that's pretty cool.
Awesome. Like I said, that said it 1,000 times. Awesome event. Had a blast. Super blessed to have been there. Met a lot of great people. It just, I couldn't imagine having a bigger, more impactful weekend.
Where can people find you?
Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube and Instagram, and be representing the people's champion with my belt.
There you go.
You know.
Thanks, boss.